Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a C# application using the Microsoft Visual Studio version 2010. I'm going to launch my Visual Studio here. And I'm going to begin with a new project. Here's a link for the new project. You can also go up to File, New, and find projects. So either of those options will get you to the same place, which is where we want to be. So you need to be careful here, especially on the campus labs, because we have all kinds of students using the labs, the machines in the labs, and you may have a Visual Basic student who used it last, and then this window is going to remember the last choice that was made here. So always be careful to select the Visual C#. Now, if you're at home and you're just doing C#, then that's not an issue. You're always going to get the C# choices. But in school, like I said, you need to be careful. So make sure that you choose C#. And the C# icons are predominantly green in nature as opposed to the Visual Basic, which are blue. So if you get used to seeing that green, that's probably a good habit to get into. It's just a quick glance will tell you you're in the C# choices. So we are going to create a Windows Forms application, which is the first choice here, and I'm going to give it a name. I'll just call it Test App, something short, and pay attention also to the location that you're saving the project in. If you don't, here I'm on the desktop, which is fine, I'll stay there, but if you do not specify, it'll put you in some kind of default Visual Studio folder. Your project will be saved, but then you have to go digging for it after the fact. So just be mindful of where you're saving and browse and maybe put it on the desktop or in My Documents or somewhere where you know you can retrieve it. And then we'll click OK. Okay, so we've started with just a basic form here, and just a few, I'm going to close this pane here, the data sources, but just a few points about the window here that we'll be working with. For the most part, here, this is a very important window. It's called the Solution Explorer, and that's where you can see the files that are involved in this project. This is the form file, and it really is this guy here, the gray form, but it's the code for the form. So this is the visual of the form, but if you see these buttons here? This will allow me to view the code for the form. Even though there's hardly anything there yet, this is where we'll write our code for the form. And then if I want to get back to the visual of the form, I can click this guy. So you can go back and forth. There's the code, there's the visual. And you can also go back and forth like this up here on the tabs, whatever is easier. So let's just keep this simple, and we'll do something really short and to the point. I'll add a picture here. This is a picture box. Oh, I'm in the toolbox, by the way, and this is where you get all of your controls that we'll be learning this semester, the buttons, the picture boxes, the labels, and whatnot. So I just added a picture box. I drew it with my mouse onto the form, and now I'll very quickly change the picture. Okay, just so you know, I clicked that little arrow up in the corner there. I'll do Choose Image, and I'm going to import, and on the desktop I have this puppy, and we'll click OK. Alright, that doesn't look so great, but I'll change the size mode to Stretch Image. Okay, much better. And now let's say we'll just add a quick button, like an exit button. Okay, so I don't like that it says button 1. I would like for it to say exit or something along those lines. So what I'll do is I'll right click the button and open up the properties. And this is another important window for us. This is where we change the properties of an object. So the button is an object. I would like to change the text of the button to say exit. Okay, and I just typed in exit. Now as soon as I click away, look at me over here, I'm clicking away and it changed on the visual. Another thing I'm going to do, and I want you to get in the habit of, button 1 is not a good name for that button. We want to be able to look at the button in our code and be able to tell exactly what it is. So if I have a bunch of buttons in an application, and we have button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, well that's very confusing. I don't know what's what. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to name it BTN so we know it's a button, and then exit. So that tells me, if I'm looking at my code, that that's the exit button. Okay, so now I'm going to write the code that will actually close the application once the button is clicked. So I'm going to double click that exit button. What this has done is it's created an event handler. So an event occurs when the user engages with the program, in this case clicks on that button, and then the code inside of this curly brace sandwich here, the code inside that I'm about to type right here is going to execute. What do we want to happen when the user clicks that button? We want the application to end. So I'm going to say this dot close. This means the form. This refers to the form, the gray window here. So when I say this dot close, I'm basically saying close the form. Okay, so now we're ready to run this program. I'm going to click the green arrow up there. Here's my application running, and I'll test out that button, and it does work. Okay, in the next video I'll point out some of the important files that are generated in a C# application, and maybe also talk about some error handling as well.